Welcome to the lesson on slope-intercept form. Let's take a look at the general structure of that equation that we've used so often. Y equals mx plus b. Or we have the option of changing the sides around and writing mx plus b equals y. That's the way I prefer. The m, of course, represents the slope. When we refer to slope, we think of several things. Delta y over delta x. We also think of rise over run. Or sometimes we think of m. We can also think of it as the rate of change. M, slope, can be positive, and we know that pitches upward, or the slope can be negative, and we know that a negative slope pitches downward as we move right to left. What else do we see in this equation? The b value represents the y-intercept. It is our anchor point, or it is the point where the line intersects that y-axis. So, we're given plenty of information when it comes to this equation. So, for example, say we get this equation, 2x minus 4 equals y. We know our 2 is our slope, and our negative 4 is our anchor intercept on the y-axis. Slope, of course, is thought of as a ratio 2 over 1, and since this is positive, we will go up 2 to the right 1, and then we will anchor at negative 4. If, however, we were given an equation like this, negative 3x plus 2 equals y, well, our slope is negative 3 now. That line will pitch downward, and our anchor intercept is positive 2. When we think about this slope, it's negative 3 over 1. That's the ratio. Down 3 to the right 1. And our anchor point, well, that intercept is positive 2. Now, we were fortunate that these two equations were given to us in a very organized way. But what happens if we get something like this? Y equals negative 1 plus 4x. Well, our slope is our coefficient in front of our x. So our slope is 4, which means up 4 to the right 1, and our intercept, our constant, is negative 1. So in this case, b equals negative 1. If you don't like the look of this original equation, you can rewrite it. Bring the 4x term to the front. Minus 1 is our constant, equals y. Let's take a look at our worksheet. Given an equation in slope-intercept form, we're going to identify the slope and we are going to identify the intercept. All of these equations we've been given are in slope-intercept form. It states, given an equation, find the slope and find the intercept. Let's start with the slope. And let's be very conscious to pay attention to whether the slope is positive or negative. We know the slope is the coefficient that lives in front of the variable x. So let's go down through and circle every coefficient. Make sure if it's negative to include that negative symbol in your circle. Now, we've identified each slope. Now let's go through and identify each intercept. That's our constant. And make sure and include either a positive or a negative sign as you circle that intercept. For example, number 1 is a positive 6, but number 2, the constant, is a loss of 9, negative 9. So carefully go down through and circle your intercept in each equation. Now we're ready to answer some questions. In number 1, the slope, and let's write it as a ratio, is negative 2 over 1, which means down 2 to the right 1. If we were to graph this line, it would have a downward pitch. And the intercept, well, our anchor intercept would be at a positive 6 on the y-axis. Let's continue on. Number 2, 3 over 1, which would mean up 3 to the right 1. Our anchor, negative 9 on the y-axis. Let's take a look at a couple more together, and then you can complete the rest of this on your own. Let's go to problem number 3. In this case, your slope is negative 4 over 1, which means down 4 to the right 1, and your anchor intercept, negative 2. How about problem 8? Your slope is negative 7, so negative 7 over 1. That would be down 7 over 1. That would be extremely steep. Your intercept, negative 2. And number 9. Well, it is in ratio form. So let's write down positive 1/2, which means up 1 to the right 2. And this would anchor at 3/4 on the y-axis. Complete the rest of this on your own and identify the slope and the intercept for each equation. This concludes this lesson. When you're done, you can check your work against the answer key.